What's going on, guys? So today I'm gonna quickly go over what I've done to fix my bench, like literally today. So this guy named Steve Denovi, he's not that well known on social media. At least he only has like 500 subscribers on YouTube, but he has. I probably found one of the most informative videos on how to bench correctly last night, and I watched it and applied it to my training today, and it like fixed all my problems, and it was something like so subtle but like so effective. So I'm gonna just like quickly explain what I did in like a little voiceover, so enjoy. So what I learned from that video from Steve Denovi is there is such thing as over retracting your scapula. So when you bench, as most of you would know, you want to retract your scapula, as I do here. But what I'm actually doing is over retracting. And you can see this because if you look at my elbows really closely, right when I unrack it, they're not fully locked out. That's called a soft elbow lockout. So your tricep is actually attached to your scapula. So if you are over retracting your scapula, what you're doing is you're pinning it down to the bench. And one of the natural functions of the scapula is not only to retract, but also to protract. So ideally when you bench, you want to be retracting on the way down, but you want your scapula to be able to move a little bit so that it can like slightly protract on the way back up, so that it's not all your anterior delt or your front delt that's moving the weight back up. And after I watched that video, I looked at my bench and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I do. Because many people teach like retract your scapula and get it as and depress too, over depressing. That's another thing that I didn't know. I just thought I want to retract it and depress it as much as possible. So when you over depress, what happens is you can actually, and it's not gonna happen to everybody, but especially if you get into like heavier weights, like let's say you're benching like 300 pounds or something, and you're constantly over depressing and retracting your scapulas aren't moving, like they're not protracting on the way back up, and because they're so pinned down to the bench, you're putting a lot on your anterior delt and your pec. So a lot of people actually get pec strains because they're over depressed and over retracted. And I fall victim as to one of these people. I'm very glad I found Steve Denovi's channel. He has a bunch of other videos, so they're really long, but if you care enough to like fix your form and stuff, you will enjoy them a lot. Like the bench one, it was a 50-minute video, but if you go in the description, it has a breakdown of what he talks about in each section, and it was just it was the most well-rounded video I've ever found on benching, because there's so many cues that are like thrown out there. Like another one that I had to fix was tuck the elbows on the way down, and you do not want to be tucking your elbows on the way down unless you are competing in equipped powerlifting, which is when you have a bench shirt. And when you have a bench shirt, it changes the biomechanics of the lift. You don't want to over tuck your elbows, or tuck them at all, really. And that's what I do. And you can identify that by seeing your elbow being in front of the bar on the way down. And it's pretty clear that I do that. So a cue that he proposed to use is break at the elbows when you go down. So, and then lock triceps on the way up. So I thought of both of those, and in this newer bench form, I guess you could say, what I'm focusing on is those two cues, but instead of trying to force scapular retraction, I'm really trying to get most of my arch from my leg drive. Ideally, you want to be pushing them like not just straight away from the floor like a leg extension, but also outwards, so almost at like a V angle. So you want to be pushing your feet in that direction, and what that's going to do, it's going to raise your rib cage, and by raising your rib cage, that's where your touch point is going to be. So when you go down, it's going to touch your rib cage, and then lock your elbows on the way up, re-rack. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video, guys. In summary, you don't want to over retract your scapulas. You don't want to go like this because you can't lock your elbows out all the way. So yeah, like this is hard because the long head of your tricep is connected to your scapula back here. So what you want to do, you unrack with your elbows locked and then retract. And break at the elbows, lock triceps rather than tuck and then have to do something like this and then you injure a pec or something. So don't over retract, let your scapulas move. Hope you enjoyed this video. Check out Steve Denovi's channel if you haven't, because it's amazing. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.